Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I have learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. I do not know how these dogs know when I am filming for this channel, but they do, don't you? I just filmed a video for my drama channel, and they don't come anywhere near this chair. I don't know if it's the flipping of the fan. I don't know if it's I talk louder over there, but as soon as I say Peterisms, they come running over here. So how are you doing today, Tucker? Oh, he's scratching my arm. How are you doing? What are you doing, huh? You having a good day? Can you, well, hold on, you have to see this. This is so cute. How are you doing today, bud? He's so sweet, isn't he? We are having a great day today, but I have to tell you, let me pick up Boo Radley here for a second. He said, I want to be in the video too, Dad. Some days, stuff just happens, you know what I mean? I got up today and I was having a fantastic day, and it just like, I came home and I'm trying to get my stuff done, and it was like one thing after another. Thank you, Boo Radley. It was like one thing after another. And then my camera that I use is a vlogging camera. So when I'm looking at the camera, the back flips up and I'm looking into the screen, if that makes sense. And so I'm going and I'm changing batteries, and I had it in my hand, and it literally like slipped from my hand and it landed on the ground, and I looked at it and it looked completely fine. I was like, please God, let this camera be fine. I don't want to buy another camera, even though I kind of need to do, and I need to anyway, because this camera has really been through it. I have to like take like eyeglass screws, you know, drivers, you know what I'm talking about, and like tighten up the screws because it's so loose at times and stuff. But I turned it over and I picked it up, and at first I was like, oh, everything's fine. And then I looked at the screen, and the screen is like shattered on one side. And I was like, and I started getting kind of frustrated about it, okay, because I had really been wanting to buy an iPad, and this is just probably God telling me I don't need an iPad. I had really been wanting to buy an iPad, and that was what I was gonna spend some money on, which is about the same price as a camera. And so now I'm like, okay, well, you have to have a camera because you make videos on YouTube, and that's what you love to do. So this weekend I will probably be looking at cameras, but I think I'm gonna try to make my camera last as long as I can. I'm just that person. So even though the screen is broken, it will be whatever. But then I went upstairs and I was doing this review video, and I took a shower and I washed my hair, and I was in such a good mood. I just was like, you know what? Stuff happens. Stuff happens, you know? My old sponsor used to say to me, you know, like, because I would bring up stuff that, you know, had happened and whatever. He said, you can't, why are you crying over spilt milk? You cannot do anything about it. You can't do anything about something that happened 10 years ago, 2 years ago, a year ago. You can't do something about something that happened 10 minutes ago, you know, except for take action on it now and figure out, okay, now this has happened. Where am I going to go from here, you know? So I think when stuff happens, we have to just be like, it is what it is, you know? Like, have you ever had those people? I've become more this person. I'm like, well, I should say I'm probably 60% there. I used to not be there at all, okay? That when something breaks, like if a glass breaks, you know, do you ever have those people that are like, oh my God, a glass, and they're freaking out about it, you know? And then over time, you meet people that are like, a glass breaks, and they just like call me, walk in the other room, and they get a broom, and they're like, okay, everybody walk out, it'll be fine, whatever. They act like it's no big deal whatsoever. They're like, can I get you something to drink? I'm gonna clean this up. I wanna become that person. That's who I wanna become, okay? That calm and serene person in every situation. I would say I'm 60% of the way there. I'm getting there. I'm working on it. I'm doing better. And today, I would say I was like 90% there, you know? So like, we're moving in the right direction. We're moving in the right direction, but you know, we're forever like works in progress. We're always like working on things, you know, and I just want to be a calm and still. I like the word still. Like, that's a word that I've been really attracted to lately, you know? Are you ever attracted to like just words? I've been really attracted to the word still lately. I'm just being still and practicing moments of quiet and silence. I like the word silence too, which is so funny coming from me, that, you know, somebody that is such a talker, and I love to talk and I love to have conversations, but I love to just practice stillness. And you know, like right now it's like lightly kind of snowing, and we've got snow on the ground, and it's just like a perfect winter day to just like practice stillness and silence. Now, it's a little hard with these two running around, you know, but yeah, so it's a good day today. Today is a good day. All right, guys, are you gonna help me pick out books to read? Okay, you know how we do this. Now, I mixed them up today. Who's gonna help me? Tucker, you, okay, hold on, let me spread them out like cards. Do you guys like this part, or do you think this part is stupid? I like it. Okay, you pick out one, Tucker. Which one? Well, he rubbed the healing, so we're gonna read that one. You wanna pick another one out? This one? Don't sweat the small stuff? Okay, but You guys are like, he didn't do anything. He did. He kind of touched it a little bit. Yeah, didn't you? You want to learn some meditations of the world? He said, I would love to, Dad. Oh, Boo Radley just put his paw up on my arm. They're so sweet, aren't they? Okay. You ready? You ready to read the books of the world? Are you ready to learn? He said, where are we going? Okay. Let's start with Healing After Loss, Daily Meditations for Working Through Grief. I was having a really tough day yesterday. You know, sometimes when I'm having like the best days is when I have the hardest days with PP too. Like, I was just around here, I was filming videos, and these guys were, he just like hit the book with his paw. He's like, I'm ready to hear the meditation. And Tucker was wanting me to pick him up, Boo Radley was wanting me to pick him up, so I picked him up, and then I picked up Tucker with my other arm, and you know your name, don't you? Tucker. Tucker? Tukey. And I picked him up with my other arm, and I was kind of just walking around, and we went over and we visited PP, and I just lost it. You know, it's just a tough day. And I think some days when I'm feeling the best is like when that emotion comes through. And, you know, just yesterday was a little bit of a tough day. I was thinking a lot about your brother yesterday. But these two sweeties, look at their little heads. Okay, let's get in here. February 28th. Can you believe it this weekend? Tomorrow is the last day of February. I can't believe it. Okay, February 28th. They seem to come suddenly upon happiness, as if they had surprised a butterfly in the winter woods. Edith Wharton. It comes to us as a revelation at first, an astonishment, almost on occasion of guilt. We can be happy. Maybe we thought it would not happen, that our life would be forever colored with pain, that no moment would be free of it. There is a way in which we are right. There is a way in which we are right. No moment is ever free of the life history that has preceded it. And we don't want that. One of the things we sometimes fear, needlessly, is that having lost a loved one, we will lose the memory of the loved one as well. That will not happen. But we will lose or be released from the overhanging cloud of gloom, which for a while may seem our daily portion. Part of that is up to us. We can decide not to be happy again. It may take a lot. We can decide not to be happy again. It may take a lot of work never to be happy again, but we can do it if we want to. How much better and how much more a tribute to the one we have lost, to walk out from under our cloud, so that when we come upon a butterfly in the winter woods, we will be able to see it. Gloom has no value of itself. It's fine to be happy. I love this meditation so much, and I think it's such a truism, you know, that we have such a hard time with happiness and dealing with grief. And I was actually just talking about this to a friend of mine today. You know, I said, whatever kind of grief that you're going through in your life, you know, people ask me often, they're like, well, what do you do? Like, how do you get through it? And I really think, like, for me, it was just putting one foot in front of the other and feeling my pain. There was no magic solution to it. There was no, you know, thing that I could do that would take it away. It just was putting one foot in front of the other. That time for some is different than others, you know. I'm somebody that tends to, well, I was going to say I tend to grieve longer than others, but I don't know that I think that that's true. I think it depends on the person, it depends on the relationship, and it depends on where they're at that time, you know? Like, with my mom, that was like the first major loss I had ever really suffered in my life. And it was my mom, you know, and I'm an only child. With my, you know, aunt, and my uncle, it was a little bit easier. They had been sick for a really, really long time. You know, my aunt, I think, had been sick for like 3 or 4 years at that point. She was on an oxygen tank. You know, she had lung disease. She was ready to go. Like, she had told my cousin that she was ready to go. And even though it was still hard for me, I think often, you know, like, did you get it, Boo Radley? I think sometimes grief is selfish, because we want that person to still be here, you know? We want that person to be, you know, like, we're the ones that miss them. So it's like our grief is our way of holding on to their still being here, if that makes sense, when maybe that's not really in reality. I mean, like, I don't know, like, you know, it's hard sometimes. I think that grief is really, really hard. There were like 2 things that I wanted. I'm on August 15th. I don't know how I went to August 15th, but there were like 2 things in here that I wanted to remember to say. You know, one of them was, I remember years and years and years ago watching Oprah's aha moments, and there was this mother whose daughter had been murdered when she was like, I think like 16 or 18 years old, and it had been like 10 years since she had passed. And she came on there. It was a horrifying story. It was like, you know, she had shared the story that they put her in a trash bag and left her on the side of the road. Like, and she just kept on saying it over and over and over, like, just left her like a bag of trash. Kept on saying it over and over and over again. And Dr. Phil was on the show. And she hadn't changed or gotten rid of anything in her daughter's room. Nothing. Like, she hadn't changed anything. It was exactly how it had been the day that she had died. And so Dr. Phil's talking to her, and he said, how would your daughter feel if she knew that you were stuck in this grief? If you if she knew that you had been unwilling to clean out her room or change things. And she said, oh, she'd be very upset with me. She'd be very upset with me. And he said, I want to propose a new thought to you. And as he said this, like, this was so profound to me and really, really helpful with my mom and everybody else that's passed. As he said this, like, you could just see the relief go from her face. And he said, instead of, focusing on the one day that she died, could you instead maybe focus and celebrate on the 18 years that she was alive? Because she was a living, vibrant person for 18 years. And yet all you choose to focus on is the one day that she died. And I have to say, I have friends of mine that celebrate the anniversary of, their loved one's death. And I totally respect that. And I think that's great. That's not something that I choose to do. That was a very painful day for me. It felt like an ending, not a beginning. It's not something that I choose to celebrate. It just isn't. I choose to celebrate my mother's life. And that's why I love to tell stories of her and what I've shared and what I've learned. That's why I do that, out of paying homage for her. But when I heard that, it just was such a profound thing for me that I think often, not even just with grieving, but with a lot of things that happen to us in our lives, we don't look at the good. We always want to look at the negative that comes out of it. It's like you get out of a relationship and it's like you want to look at all the negative things that happen in the relationship and question, well, was it ever real? Yeah, it was real. There were good times that occurred in that relationship. Don't just write it off because the relationship is no longer there. Celebrate those times that were good. Don't romanticize the good times and only remember that. Be honest with yourself about it, but remember the good times too. They happened. They're a part of your life. And I think that, for me, and then she shared on the show, she said, my plan was to come on the show and I was going to tell my story and then I was going to go home and take my life. And he goes, but you're not going to now? And she said, oh no, I'm not. Now I can move on. I can continue to live, because he had given her freedom, over her grieving process. And I think it's so powerful. There was something else that I wanted to say that I can't remember what it is. So, there was another story that I wanted to tell. Oh well, it doesn't matter. Okay, I'm sure I've told it already, or I'll tell it again. So, Boo Radley, do you want to help me pick a story? Oh, his ears perked up right there. When in doubt about whose turn it is to take out the trash, go ahead and take it out. Okay, this would be a good one. Because this is something I talk about a lot on my vlog about couples and marriage. When in doubt, this is number 40. When in doubt about whose turn it is to take out the trash, go ahead and take it out. If we're not careful, it's easy to become resentful about all the responsibilities of daily living. Once, in a very low mood, I figured out that on an average day, I do over 1,000 different things. Of course, when I'm in a better mood, that number is significantly lower. As I think about it, it's astonishing to me how easy it is for me to remember all the chores that I do, as well as all the other responsibilities that I take care of. But at the same time, it's easy for me to forget all the things that my wife does on a daily basis. How convenient. It's really difficult to become a contented person if you're keeping score of all you do. Keeping track only discourages you by cluttering your mind with who's doing what, who's doing more, and so forth. If you want to know the truth about it, this is the epitome of small stuff. It will bring you far more joy to your life to know that you have done your part and someone else in your family has one less thing to do than it will to worry and fret over whose turn it is to take out the trash. The strongest argument against this strategy is the concern that you'll be taken advantage of. This mistake is similar to believing it's important that you're right. Most of the time, it's not important that you're right, and neither is it important if you take the trash out a few more times than your spouse or housemate. Making things like garbage less relevant in your life will undoubtedly free up more time and energy for truly important things. I love this meditation so much. And, I think it's something that Alex and I have really, really learned and come to terms with. And I think most couples do, okay? Married or otherwise. Is that I think that we have these expectations that so-and-so does this and so-and-so does that. And sometimes they're spoken of. And in our marriage, we have certain things that he does and certain things that I do. And that was just something that we've discussed a long time ago. Things that I don't mind doing, things that he doesn't mind doing, right? So he just kind of was like, it over time became his thing, whatever. And I remember we were like in marriage counseling one time. And so if you've never watched my videos before, my husband and I went to marriage counseling for like 2 years. We're currently looking for another marriage counselor. Things are good. And we want to make sure, it's like, like when you're like really good at a sport, you keep up with a coach. We want to make sure that things keep going well. And this is one of the reasons why, okay? Because things like Who took the trash out? You didn't take the trash out. You know, you didn't feed the dogs. I had to feed the dogs tonight. Where do you want to go to dinner? I don't care. You said you don't care, but you do care. Those kinds of things are where little arguments start. But then over time what happens, and this is not what the meditation's about, but this is really what happens, is you start by having a fight, and then over time, the fight escalates, and before you're careful, you no longer are having a fight, the fight is having you. Have you ever had that situation happen where you're looking at each other and it's like, well, why are we even together? And you don't even know how the fight originally started. You don't know if it started over the trash or the dinner or whatever, right? But it's you're looking at each other, and in that moment, it's like, I don't care anymore if we're even in this relationship. It's escalated to a point of, you don't validate me, you don't need me, you don't care about me. It's gone into this area that it never should have gone to, right? And it's craziness. And those things just don't matter, you know? And today, like Alex, he just comes home and he does all this stuff, and I'll do stuff around the house that, you know, that he needs done or whatever. And the only thing that we don't do for each other is our laundry, because like he doesn't like me touching his clothes and I don't like him touching mine, because like, you know, he likes his done a certain way and vice versa. But that's the only thing, you know? Like everything else we share responsibilities. It's our home. We share our home together. No one is greater than the other. We are equal partners in this relationship. He can do things, I can do, you know what I mean? Like, it's stupid. And I think the thing is also is, some of our largest arguments that we've ever had in our marriage have been as a result of, where do you want to go to dinner tonight? Like, I always joke about that, but that's the truth, right? It's like, he'll come home and he'll be like, I've had a long day. Let's go out to dinner. Where do you want to go? I don't care, okay? And then he'll say, okay, well, let's go to Chinese. And I'll say, oh, I don't really want Chinese. And he'll say, well, you said you didn't care. And then I'll say, okay, but anywhere but Chinese. And he'll go, okay, Mexican? Oh, not Mexican either. And then he'll be like, okay, you pick. And then I'm like, all right, well, not Chinese, not Mexican. You want to go to like Cheesecake Factory? He goes, we just had it 3 days ago. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, fine, you do your thing, I'll do my thing. You never listen to me. You know, it just escalates in this huge thing. When I look back on my life, at the end of my life, okay, and I look at my marriage with my husband, and I hope we're still together at the end, when I look back on it, I hope those aren't the moments that mattered to me. I really do. And if we're gonna argue over some stuff in our marriage, it better really matter. Like, it really better matter, you know? I think couples argue. I think couples have fights and whatever, but not over that stuff. It just doesn't matter. Unless one person is just being railroaded and they're doing everything in the house and they're taking care of, that's a completely different situation, all right? But if you're somewhat equal partners and you just don't feel like the other person's listening to you or whatever, do not wait for an argument like that to say those things, you know? Like, and I think that's one of the things, like Alex said in marriage counseling, this is what I was gonna reference, was in marriage counseling one day, he said this is not a tit, we're not in a tit for tat relationship, we're in a marriage, you know? And my dad at our wedding, he spoke. My dad said, when you hear people say that a marriage is 50-50, that is a complete lie. He said, for a true marriage, you each have to put in at any given time 100% and 100%, because the other person might have a day where they can't give 100%. So if you're not, who's carrying the rest of the weight of the marriage? A marriage is a union. A relationship is a committed, whether you're together for 2 weeks, 2 years, 20 years or whatever, okay? Whether you're married or not, that relationship is a joint coupling of two people. Or three, I guess. That's not my you know what I'm saying? Listen, I've seen those shows on HBO. But you know what I'm saying? Like, where you have discussions about that stuff. And that's where communication comes into play, and you respect the other person, you know? I don't know. There are days that I come home that I don't want to do anything. And I'll look at Alex and say, can you just deal with this? And he'll be like, yeah, sure, babe. And there are days that he comes home and he's like, I am so exhausted. And I'm like, don't. Go upstairs, put your pajamas on, let me take care of stuff. And that's how a marriage should be, right? You know, let's not argue about that other stuff. Let's not argue about the trash or feeding the dogs or taking the dogs outside. It doesn't matter, right? You know, like, let's just enjoy the time that we actually get to spend together, because the reality is, in the world that we live in, most of us work 40 plus hours a week with people that we are not even married to or in relationships with or have any kind of familial relationship with, family-wise. So we don't get to spend that much time with the people that mean the most to us. And that's a reality if you really look at it. If you've never looked at it that way, you're like sitting there, I mean, you're probably having an aha moment going, Peter's right. I spend more time with my coworkers than I do with my husband, or more with my wife, or more with my mom or my friends. It's the truth. Think about how much time in a week you spend with your best friend versus how much time during the week you spend with your coworkers. Think about that, right? how much time you spend with your partner, your husband, your wife. So then that time that you have, you want to spend fighting over who took out the trash? No, it's not worth it. It is not worth it. And we should be protecting that time at any expense, right? And we should be protecting our relationships at any expense. Marriages and relationships are really, really, really hard. And anybody that says otherwise, I don't know what kind of marriage or relationship you're being in, but like, listen, every relationship I've been in has its own difficulties and each one has been different. Look at Boo Radley, he just laid down, he is so sweet. Boo, are you ready for a nap? He said, I'm already napping. Marriage is not easy, you know, and I think in my early 20s, I had this fantasy that like if you were with the right person, it would just, relationship would just go off without a hitch and it would be really easy and all that. There's no truth to that, you know, like it's something that you have to work at consistently. It's like keeping a fire alive in the dead of winter. You have to continue to put logs on the fire and keep it going and stoke the fire. You have to, right? And that's to keep all the forms of intimacy in line and continue to stay passionate, you know, towards each other and desirable to one another and continue to communicate with each other and have each other be close friends with each other, you know, and care and communicate. I mean, all of those things, that's a lot, you know, to keep it going. It's a lot, but it's worth it. You know, it's worth it. It's one thing to say that marriage and relationships are difficult, but then we also have to add the second part to that is that it's totally, totally worth it. My husband and I have been through some pure hell in our relationship that had nothing to do with who took out the trash, okay? But you know, all of that existed to get us where we're at today, that I am not willing to throw all that away over who took out the trash. You know what I mean? I'm not willing to. Like, my marriage is sacred today. So anyway, let me know what you think about those in the comment section below, those meditations. And I hope you guys are having a fantastic weekend. They know what this is done because Boo Radley just jumped down. And I love you guys and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.